Magic Tree House, Part 15, Viking Ships at Sunrise. Prologue. One summer day in Frog Creek Peninsula, a mysterious house appeared in the woods. 8-year-old Jack and his 7-year-old sister Annie climbed into the tree house. They found that it was filled with books. Jack and Annie soon discovered that the tree house was magic. It could take them to the places in the books. All they had to do was to point to the picture and wish to go there. There. Along the way, they discovered that the tree house belongs to Morgan Le Fay. Morgan is a magical librarian from the time of King Arthur. She travels through time and space gathering books. In the Magic Tree House books 8 to 12, Jack and Annie solved 4 ancient riddles and became master librarians to help them in their future tasks. Morgan gives Jack and Annie their secret library cards with the letter ML on them. As master librarians, Jack and Annie must go on 4 missions to save stories from ancient libraries. They have already brought back a scroll from an ancient Roman town and a bamboo book from ancient China. Now they are about to head out on their 3rd mission. Before dawn, Jack opened his eyes. A thin grey light came through his window. His clock read 5 a.m. All was quiet. Today we are going to ancient Ireland, he thought. Back more than 1,000 years. Morgan Le Fay had told him that it was a very dangerous time, with Vikings raiding the coast. You awake? Came a whisper. Annie stood in his doorway. She was dressed and ready to go. Yeah, meet you outside, said Jack as he climbed out of bed. He pulled on his jeans, t-shirt and sneakers. He put his secret library card into his backpack with his notebook and pencil. Then he hurried downstairs. Annie was waiting for him in the yard. The air was damp and misty. Ready? She asked. Jack took a deep breath. I guess, he said. He was a little worried about the Vikings. They walked silently over the dewy grass. Then they ran up their street and into the Frog Creek woods. Mist clung to the trees as they walked through the dark woods. It's hard to see, said Jack. Where's the tree house? Asked Annie. I have no idea, said Jack. Just then something fell in front of them. Watch out, shouted Jack. He covered his head. The ladder, cried Annie. Jack opened his eyes. The rope ladder from the magic tree house dangled in front of them. Jack looked up. The tree house was hidden in the mist. Come on, let's go, said Annie. She grabbed the ladder and started up. Jack followed. They climbed through the wet air and into the tree house. Hello, said Morgan. Hello, said Morgan. I'm glad to see you. She was sitting in the corner. At her feet was the scroll they brought back from Roman times, the book from ancient China. I'm glad to see you, said Jack. Me too, said Annie. It's good that you both came early, said Morgan. She reached into the folds of her robes and pulled out a piece of paper. Here's the ancient story you must find today, she said. Morgan handed the paper to Jack. On it were the words Serpens Magna. The mysterious writing reminded Jack of the writing from their trip through the Roman town of Pompeii. That looks like Latin, he said. Very good, said Morgan. It is Latin. But I thought they spoke Latin in ancient Rome, said Annie. But I thought they spoke Latin in ancient Rome, said Annie. Aren't we going to Ireland? You are, said Morgan, but during the Dark Ages in Europe, educated people wrote in Latin. The Dark Ages, said Jack. Yes, said Morgan. The time after the fall of the Roman Empire. Why is it called dark? Said Jack. It was a difficult time, said Morgan. People had to work very hard just to feed and clothe themselves. There was not a lot of time for playing, learning, or making art and music. Morgan pulled a book from her robe. Your research, she said, handing it to Annie. The title read Ireland Long Ago. Remember, said Morgan, your research book will guide you, but in your darkest hour, only the ancient story can save us. Jack and Annie sat together. And remember this, said Morgan. It must be your darkest hour when there is no hope left. If you ask for help too soon, it will not come. And we have to find the story first, said Annie. That is true, said Morgan. Do you have your secret library cards? Jack and Annie nodded. Show them to the wisest person you meet, said Morgan. Don't worry, said Annie. I think we are ready now. Annie pointed to the cover of the Ireland book. I wish we could go there, she said. She gave Morgan a little wave. See you soon. Good luck, said Morgan. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, and then everything was still, absolutely still. The steep climb. Jack opened his eyes. The light was still grey, but the air was even damper and colder than in Frog Creek. Wow, I'm in a long dress, said Danny. It's scratchy. Hey, I've got a little purse on my belt. It has my library card in it. Jack looked down at his own clothes. He was wearing a shirt and trousers made of heavy wool. He also wore leather sleepers, and in place of bag was a leather bag. Wow, said Danny, looking out the window. This really looks like the Dark Ages. Jack looked out too. He couldn't see anything through the mist. It's just because the sun is not yet up yet, he said. I better check the book. And he handed the island book to the Jack. He opened it and read aloud. The early Middle Ages were once known as the Dark Ages because learning and culture nearly vanished throughout Europe. Scholars today praise the brave Irish monks who helped keep Western civilization alive. What does civilization and monks mean? Asked Annie. I think civilization is when people have books and arts and good manners, said Jack. Monks are religious people who spend their time praying and reading and helping people. Well, I don't see any civilization or monks out there, said Danny, pointing at the mist. Jack pulled out his notebook. He wrote, Brave monks in Ireland. Then he looked at Annie. If we find civilization, I think we'll find the lost story, he said. Let's go, said Annie. She lifted her skirt and climbed out the window. Jack read more in the island book. The monks copied the ancient writings of the Western world. Before printing was invented, all books had to be written and copied. Hey, we are on a cliff, and he called from outside above the ocean. Be careful, said Jack. He stuffed the island book and his notebook into his leather bag. Then he climbed out the window. And he was peering over the edge. Jack looked too. There was a rocky shore 20 feet below. Waves slapped against the rock. Seagulls swooped and glided above the sea. It doesn't look like there's any civilization down there, said Jack. Maybe we should climb those, said Annie. She pointed to steep step cuts into the cliff. Jack looked up. The cliff also rose above them in the mist. We'd better wait till the sun comes up, he said. Let's just go super slow, said Annie. She started up the stone steps. Wait, Annie, said Jack. They might be slippery. Wow, she said, almost falling backward. I tripped on my darn dress. I told you to wait, said Jack. It's too dangerous. Something fell from above. Watch it, said Jack. He put his hands over his head. Hey, it's a rope, said Annie. Jack saw a thick rope dangling down the stairs. Where did this come from? He asked. It's like when Morgan dropped the letter to us, said Annie. I bet someone's trying to help us. Yeah, but who? Said Al. Let's find out, said Annie. She grabbed the rope. I'll use it first. Once I'm at the top, you can come after me. Okay, but hurry, he said, and be very careful. Jack waited as Annie started climbing up the steps. Annie held up to the rope as she climbed slowly up the stairs. Soon she vanished over the top. What's up there? Jack shouted, but his voice was lost in the sound of the wave. He grabbed the rope and started up the steep steps at the top of the cliff. He pulled himself over the edge. Aha, boomed a deep, jolly voice. It's another little invader. Brother Patrick. Jack's glasses were wet with mist. He quickly wiped them, then looked up. A man in a brown robe stood before him. The man had a round red face. He was bald except for a fringe of hair around his head. Nearby, the robe was tied around a tree. I'm not an invader, said Jack. He's Jack, said Annie. She was standing behind the man. I'm Annie. We are from Frog Creek Peninsula now. We come in peace, stammered Jack. The man eyes twinkled. Oh, do you know? He said. I wondered what was going on. I dropped the rope so I could climb down the steps, but you two grabbed it instead. How in the world did you get on this island? Jack stared at the man. He didn't know how to explain the magic tree house. In our boats, and he said quickly. The man looked puzzled. Not many boats can come ashore at this dark earlier. Well, we are very good sailors, said Jack. Said Annie. Oh, brother, thought Jack. He hoped their sailing skills wouldn't be tested. Where exactly are we? Asked Annie. And who exactly are you? You are on an island off the coast of Ireland, the man said. And I'm Brother Patrick. Whose brother are you? Said Annie. The monk smiled. The brother means I'm a Christian monk. And you're one of the monks who saved civilization, said Annie.